So, I just finished a pretty cool animation for the Sonic Unleashed Reawakened collaboration. This collab's goal is to reanimate the opening cutscene of Sonic Unleashed, and I was lucky enough to be able to work on a part for it. However, it's only like 9 seconds long, and that by itself doesn't make for a very good video, so I decided I'll take this opportunity to show off my animation process and what I do, just for the few people in the back that might have been curious. This video is more what I do as opposed to how I do it, so don't worry if I skip over certain details here and there. If you want to skip all of that and just see the final result, there's a handy dandy chapter down below. Without further ado, here we go! So among my circle, I'm known for animating in a less than conventional way for most of my work. What I tend to do is open up a program called Paint Tool Sai, a program that's generally meant to make artwork alone. And I draw my frames in there, converting each one into PNGs, labeling them in numerical order. I then take those PNGs and import them into VSDC Video Editor, since that program can take those images and make animations out of them. I then go back and forth between the two programs, cleaning up, coloring, adding any necessary visual and sound effects, and boom. Animation is done. For the Sonic animation, I decided to do things a little bit differently and actually use Adobe Animate, due to encouragement from people around me. This is the part of the cinematic that I was given to reanimate. I wanted to work on this part because I felt it was within my skill set, but would also challenge me at the same time, which I most certainly did, especially as I am someone that primarily works in 2D animation. Just to make something clear off the bat, I only ended up using Adobe Animate to make the two Sonic and Eggman animations, and then I make the background and other visual effects with Paint Tool Sai and VSDC. I started my work by creating a rough sketch for Eggman's movements, and while also figuring out the basic visualization of the background. So what I did here was take two specific rooms from the reference footage, redraw them, and then add zooming movement effects in VSDC with the two rooms repeating to give off the effect of a continuous hallway. As you can see, it looks pretty rough starting out, but it'll get refined as we go along. Next up, after adding in some in-between frames for Eggman, I then created the doors that would periodically shut as they passed by. I created them with my Paint Tool Sai method, and made sure to add the same zooming movements so that they would align in the hallways, making sure to color code them for future me to be able to distinguish them. Following the reference footage as close as I could, I made the rough animation of our favorite golden hedgehog as he flies by the camera with a stock explosion to boot. This is more of a placeholder, of course. After that, I then drew up a rough concept for the big exploding ship that falls apart, and which is also color-coded for each subtle, unique movement. To be honest, I was kind of dreading having to make explosions probably the most out of this whole project. Super Sonic gets a glow-up next, with some new in-between frames, cleaned up line art, and a flaming aura. Next up, everything else gets the glow-up treatment, as now Eggman has cleaned up line art, and all the background elements have their proper base colors. However, I feel the need to point out that you might have noticed, the background movement is a little stuttery. It kinda just slows down and speeds up unnaturally. I don't really want to go into details of why I was having so much trouble trying to get it smooth. Just know that I had no idea what any of this meant until later. Switching back the focus to Adobe Animate a bit more, I worked towards adding the basic colors and shading to the two characters, and it's right here where my inexperience with the program stands out a bit. I'm so used to being able to make all these shiny looking renders and Paint Tool Sai that being limited down to the kinds of tools and layers and how they work in Adobe kinda threw me for a loop. Speaking of shiny Paint Tool Sai renders, I finished up the hallway and doors, making it as detailed as I felt reasonable, and added in some light effects for a bit of extra spice. Then afterwards, gave the same treatment to the big ship assets and created the big outer space background. I made sure to show the ship's jets fading to darkness as the ship fell apart. Also, once again, you might have noticed, but I finally managed to figure out how to make the background movement smooth. Yippee! Now we're getting to the really spicy parts of the animation, in my opinion. So Supersonic, as he was, looked a little stale to me, so I wanted to make him glow and soar like the superpowered being he is. Because of certain complications, I needed to go into Adobe Animate and export each part of Sonic as individual files. For example, his line art would be one file, his base colors would be a separate file, etc. I then imported each file into VSDC and converted things like his aura, lighting, and glow from his eyes to a luminescent layer, while also converting things like his shading to a multiplier layer, while also adding a touch of blur to everything where necessary to add a sense of movement. I made sure to give the same treatment to Eggman, giving his Eggmobile a much more metallic and vibrant feel, as well as adding some visual effects such as the spotlight on the front of his ship and the reflection of the gate lights that fly over his window. To make the action of Supersonic bursting through the gate have a lot more oomph, I created a couple impact frames, added a camera shake to each asset, and imported in a proper explosion effect as he flies towards the camera. Next up was the final step that I was putting off all the way until this very moment. And I'll be honest, I probably could have taken the time and effort to create all of the explosions that I would have needed, but between how much time it had taken so far and the fact that I had other life responsibilities, I decided to rely a bit more on obtaining explosion stock effects from this website, and then modifying and editing them when necessary. While this still took a bit of effort in its own way, it definitely saved me a lot of time. With the addition of a couple extra sound effects to match the new visuals, the animation was pretty much completed. I present to you the final product. If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment what you think and all of that good stuff. And I will crawl back into my hole once again for the next few months. Stay safe, everyone.